Here we go. What's up, Homestead homies? It's Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. I'm Doug.
I'm Stacy.
And today is another Field Trip Friday.
I can't wait.
You guys really enjoyed the last one that we did, so we're going to do another one today. And today we're going to a place, we're going to take you guys to a house in Missouri that's over 200 years old.
Yep, and it was built by a son of a very famous colonel.
Yes. And his wife's name was Rebecca? Rebecca?
Yes, this man. And his son built this place, I guess, and they came in the late 1700s. He built it about 1800s. And so it's been over a couple hundred years old.
And it's still standing up right now. So we're gonna jump in the truck, we're gonna take you guys there while you try to think about where are we going. So let's get this show on the road. Field Trip Friday, yay!
Right,
Here we are, we're flashing back in time. As you guys know, we built our log home in 90 days by ourselves with basically no carpentry skills, and we did it out of white oak. Now, when I was doing my homework on building our home, the white oak lasts a long time. And I mean, some of the homes that we have in our area in the Midwest, these log homes have lasted over 200 years, 150 years, and they're riddled all in the hills of Missouri in the mid and southern and northern areas. So this is a tried and true building material, and that's one of the reasons why we went with it.
So hopefully ours will last that long too.
It won't matter to me none. But if you guys follow us on Instagram, I did post a couple pictures several days ago, and I was talking about century homes. In our state of Missouri, when you actually have a farm, a homestead, that has been in your family for 100 plus years, you actually get a nice sign that you can hang out, and it's registered as a century farm. So that is pretty cool too. But today we're going to take you guys around. I'm not going to tell you exactly where we are.
We're moving up in the world. We're going to be moving into this lovely thing
big
here.
two-story, like the Jeffersons. So we're going to check out these buildings. We're going to show you guys some of the neat building techniques. And then when we wrap it all up, we're going to tell you where we are, and then it'll all come together. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one too.
Let's go.
Oh, and by the way, Peter is going to be showing us around when we get inside. I'll introduce you guys to him, and then we'll start off right here at this building.
Welcome, Homestead Homies. My name is Peter, and I'll be showing you all around a number of these buildings from the early 1800s. So why don't you all take a seat here and introduce you to this particular house. Originally it's the Ingledew House. It was brought from south here near Villa Ridge. But the way we have it set up today is like a tavern, the Oxbow Tavern. And we have a number of things set up. You can see the bar back here, and this is where they would eat or drink. We have rooms upstairs where people could sleep, and over on the other side probably the quarters of the people who would live here. So this would be an important part of westward expansion as people come through during this time in the teens and 20s. As soon as the War of 1812 was over, thousands of people moved to Missouri down the Boonslick Trail and into the central part of the state. And stopping at taverns like these as they would move west. So it's a good
take a break.
Demonstration. Yeah, as they were traveling through. Yeah. Now, usually wasn't a lot of privacy at taverns. They could be a bit rough at times, but they were very necessary, and people would quickly settle Missouri. Just in the War of 1812 finished around 1815 out here in Missouri. By 1818, we were clamoring for statehood. It had grown so much in just a few years. Something incredible to see.
I know, and there's also a big influx of German immigrants, right?
Yes, and that would come a little later. So like in wave of settlements, you have early French settlers in the late 1700s. You have a wave of settlers from Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia that really comes starting around 1800s, but then especially come during this time period that I'm talking about. And then Germans too, and we'll see some of their buildings out here as well in the 1830s, 1840s, 1850s, which would really shape the area in this part of Missouri.
Right. Yeah, and I just love all the fireplaces at home to keep everyone warm and cook their meals. They're magnificent.
Yeah. So it's simple things like the bottles and the clothes. We even have a dueling pistol above the doorway there. Books and maps, and I think even a few newspapers around where they'd maybe be printed in St. Louis and distributed around. So over here could be the owner's room. We'd have a bed. In fact, a lot of homes would be about as big as this room. That would be what a lot of people would use for their family. So the house that we're in here is actually very large. But this is somewhat of a dog trot style. Usually the middle area would be open so a breezeway could come through, but you have a little cabin kind of on either side. And so we have a lot of the kitchen tools. We still use this kitchen actually quite a bit, still very usable. But usually you lived a lot of life outside. I mean, you didn't have to have very much room inside.
Right, and that's what we always say. We spend so much time outside, you know, you're in your house. And when we came in, I smelled, because in the winter when we have our wood-burning stove on, it just smells like wood in your house. It smells great. Would
have been that way 200 years ago, too.
Here's a candelabra.
And hats like that, often made out of beaver felt, would be one of the things that would bring people out onto the frontier. Yep. Because trapping the beaver could be a very profitable endeavor, although it could be very risky as well. But it would also be the fashion of the day, and people would wear them.
And as you guys know from watching our channel, in the wintertime I wear a hat manufactured by the Beaver Hat Company.
That's right.
And they've been in business since the 1800s. Don't forget your shoes, Stace.
Yeah, they're actually kind of cute.
And they started actually making rights and lefts around this time period too.
We got the...
Alright, so up here is where people might actually be staying. Now, in a tavern you shouldn't get a lot of privacy and could be sharing beds. You may do with what you had, and it's also not very bright up here, which would be typical of most homes without electrical lights. That's what you would get used to. Pretty simple. But you can see all the rope tension beds. They're held up with the ropes across. Your mattresses might be filled with straw straw or with feathers or any type of material that might be a little soft. But you might have just smaller rooms like this.
Oh, this one's straw.
Now, because you guys are recreating these homes, where are you acquiring most of this stuff?
Well, in this particular building, we have some volunteers that have helped us out a lot, and by keeping a lot of their stuff here for us to use. So sometimes through donations, sometimes through grants. And
I mean, are we antique shopping, or are we finding, you know, heirloom stuff? Are people donating them as they pass away, or?
That definitely happens as well. Not as much with this building, but with other buildings too. In fact, we've had a few items, you know, that are from, you know, people who are descendants of the people from the time period and handing them to the site. And so we do have pieces from the time period as well as replicas. So here's a early lighter from the 1800s. This one actually uses the mechanism that would usually be used on a gun of the period, using the flint and steel, where you'd put that down and cock the hammer and pull the trigger, and it would hit the steel and cause the spark, which would have this pop up, and put something flammable down there, catch it on fire so you could light your candle. All packed into one inventive mechanism here.
Pretty neat.
So I guess our next stop here is the general store.
The general store.
Hey, I love the shop.
The general store is from Schluersburg, Missouri, which is just a mile away. I like to joke that we have a third of the town here because we have their old general store, and then right next door is the post office as well. So it was a small town German settlement, 1870, had 30 people, and I don't think it has much more than that today. But this general store served as kind of the Walmart of its day. I mean, in the sense that it wasn't specific to any one item. It was trying to carry everything a community might need for much of this Femme Osage Valley that we're in.
And so just to be clear, these buildings are not recreations. These are actual buildings that were in the community that are 100 plus, 200 years old, that you guys have brought here to this one location to talk about, and basically have done minimal or some restoring to them.
Yeah, just what, you know, when we move to the site, so sometimes the chinking is replaced, but all these logs, I mean, I've met people that shopped here. This continued to be used as a general store through the 1940s.
Wow.
So they walked through these doors for 100 years as the store that the people would go to.
Cool, let's go inside.
Let's go shopping.
And you can even see, guys, I don't know if it'll pick up on the video, but there's ripples in the glass. Now that's how you can tell old glass from new glass. They hadn't quite perfected the glass making, and if you find the old glass, you'll see there's ripples and imperfections actually in the glass, so that's pretty cool.
A general store is from the German migration to the area starting in the 1840s when this was operating, and the way we have it really reflects that early time period that would have been leading up to this time period, including when this store would have been started. Really reflecting the early economy that revolves around fur trading, bartering, and bringing in what you were making on your farms and purchasing things that couldn't be got in your own community and shipped from elsewhere. So that would also mean be where news would first come to. A lot of people traveling from out of the area, they come to the general store as your link kind of to the outside economy. So it would also be a gathering place where kind of maybe equivalent to the Facebook of its day. You know, people would sit here, and if they didn't,
maybe the Starbucks,
and hear what was going on.
And you can see the German heritage with the shoes here.
German and also French. The French would have sabots, and it was a common work shoe. And I've been told that they're quite comfortable. I haven't tried
the original steel toe.
Well, don't you? I mean, I remember when I was little, they had the Dr. Scholl's, and they were all made out of wood.
Uh-huh.
And same kind of thing.
It really beats having wet feet.
Definitely.
You're working in the field.
And
we
then
have
all the traps.
Traps over here. Now those real large ones are probably overkill for most of what they were trapping, but especially the smaller ones there, they trap a lot of beaver and otter and animals like that and bring them back. Sometimes hundreds of furs on expeditions where people would go out on long hunts, on expeditions out into the Missouri frontier as early as late 1700s, early 1800s.
Yeah.
We have our portable sink there, and then some of these items are trade items. You would trade with the different native tribes and have them trap the furs for you. And the advantage is that you build good relations with the different native tribes, but other people would go out and trap the furs themselves. Of course, there was no Federal Reserve at that time, so they had different types of money, often backed by gold and silver, issued by different banks. But you would also have, even in the school books of the period, lessons on bartering and very practical lessons, because that was still used quite a bit.
And what are these made out of?
Horn.
Spoons.
Those are made out of horn that you could cut into shape and make flexible, boiling or something like that. So you don't want to put those in the dishwasher today.
No, definitely. And then these are fascinating. Look at these. Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah, and those would be more of a trade item you might use with some of the native tribes and to purchase furs.
And what is it exactly?
It's actually seashell buttons.
From river shell type stuff, or?
It's abalone.
I believe that would be something that would be shipped in from a further distance, but I'm not exactly sure which type of shells. We also have gun supplies with your gun flints. We have a bullet mold over here as well. It would be good for a trapper or a long hunter to carry along with him when Missouri was the frontier, when you would need that sort of thing. We even have one of the flintlock rifles for sale there. Something like that could be very expensive, but also very useful. Flint rifle especially, that was more accurate than a musket, but would be, you know, something like a car. It would be a very used but also very expensive piece of equipment.
And then they could get their bulk food. The
They
oats,
could
wheat, barley.
If they weren't making it themselves. A lot of people were. They were getting lots of land when they came here right away. They had plenty of acreage to do that. As a town would gather, you might have more people getting their food at the store. Otherwise, they might be bringing their food here and selling it and having it shipped out further away to trade for stuff that they weren't able to make themselves. But I compared it to a Walmart in the sense that it's trying to be very general, but you'll notice it's a lot smaller than a Walmart because most people were providing a good deal of their own stuff.
Sure.
And so this is only the stuff that you really don't have locally in your community that you'd need to bring out, or a place of exchange between neighbors.
Sure.
Which is how we actually need to get back to in our communities, because the way it is now, it just drives everyone away from each other. This was true community. Everyone knew each other. They had dealings with people, and it kept everything local. And they ate local, and they did things local.
Yeah, and that's what we strive for at our homestead. When I go to the store, I try not to buy that much. And it's interesting, as the years longer we're there, I hardly need to get as much at the stores because I'm producing it on our homestead.
Right.
So it works out good.
Well, they were definitely dependent upon each other, you know.
Yeah,
and
you need
valued what they were able to do, and that's one of the reasons a lot of people came out here, was to develop their own land, to be able to maybe not be completely self-sufficient, but you know, pretty close to it.
Sure.
Compared to being in other economies back east that were maybe not quite as much that way, less independence.
So now I'm standing in front of a building. We just left the general store, and we're standing in front of a building, or I'm standing in front of a building. It looks really plain Jane, right? Like you look at that and you're like, what could that be? But this is probably one of the more integral buildings that you would need in an area like this, in a community like this. And we're gonna show you what's inside, and then once we do, you're gonna be like, wow, that's really cool stuff. So let's go inside and we'll check it out.
All right, so this is the Grist Mill. That's the Boardman Mill. It was not far from here originally and was brought here, and it would be run by animals like horses that would be hooked up to all of these posts here, so that you still can see how it would all move around, and it would engage the next cog. And the millstone's actually up on the top floor. Down here would just be where the animals would be working. And there's two pairs of millstones. You can actually see it if you come on over here and see the millstone through the beams up there in the ceiling. So they probably use pulleys and the like to bring the grain up there, to grind it up into flour, or the corn into cornmeal, and then be able to make bread out of that. So it'd be very busy, especially the time of year when you have a lot of grain ready to produce. In fact, one of the first mills in the area, they have a story that in 1801, when they were just getting started, all the farmers were there with their grain, all helping to get this mill built to try to get it, because it was so important to a community to have a place to do this. And a lot of the millers did pretty well financially in the end. Because either take a cut of the wheat itself, or stuff that's being ground, or have everyone pay you. And once you have it built, it's not a large investment for you to keep it running.
I mean, you guys, this is where everyone would take all their spoils and have it broken down into a product that could be sold and traded for animal feed and for flour and all that stuff. So this building would be super important. It's really incredible that they're able to even have it here for you guys to see. I mean, this is, what year do you think this stuff was actually?
This one was probably 1840s when it was used. And you can see all the wood construction, the wooden pegs involved in building this circular.
This timber frame, yeah.
And the timber is actually said to be black walnut.
Right, lasts forever.
Yeah, it lasts for a long, long, long time.
And in the middle beam, of course, your very large oak.
Yeah, look at that.
So no screws, no bolts, everything's timber framed. I love it. So
yeah.
Almost 200 years old, guys. You guys are looking at 200-year-old craftsmanship that's still up and standing right now. And actually, if it was put to the test, would probably still do the same job that it was meant to do almost 200 years ago.
Total game changer in their lives, too. Look at what it can do, all the people it can help feed.
And it kept running until it was put out of business by a steam-powered mill.
Right.
But it continued to work as long as it was viable through the 1800s.
All right, now we'll go over and check out how a homestead home and outbuildings is laid out, and I think you guys will find a lot of similarities from what you see here on Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. All right, homestead homies, so here's the thing. Normally I want to try to keep these videos around 25-30 minutes. I know for some of you guys that watch these videos that that's a little bit of a stretch, but I want to give you guys as much information as I can. This video, however, because we were checking out all these different buildings, we were getting this history, we were seeing the log cabin builds, this one just turned out to be even a little bit longer than that. So what I decided to do is to break this up into two parts for you guys. So today's Field Trip Friday will be continued on Sunday, and we hope you guys have a great weekend, and hopefully you guys are really enjoying these Field Trip Fridays. You know, we're going to try to mix it up. There's going to be all kinds of things, but we're always hoping that from our videos you guys get a little bit of information, a little nugget inside of each video that you can actually use on your homestead one way or the other. So don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we'll see you guys on Sunday.
Hey guys, thanks for watching our video. You might want to check out these videos.
And if you want to become a homestead homie, click the picture of us below.
We will see you tomorrow.